everyone. My name's Father Alexander,
And I'm the Reverend David Marshall.
and this is
A bridge between. Yes.
sort of.
Sort of.
So
We're
we're
next to
actually
each other.
together. There's a mic between, so call it this week. It's a mic
A mic
between.
between, right. Yes.
So for those of you who can't actually see us
Yeah.
online because you're on the audio part, Father Dave and I are at our College of Presbyters meeting together here.
I'm a card-carrying member of it. You have yours.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And we are taking some time today in the midst of wonderful discussions and a great lunch here at Dayspring to just take a few minutes to record our podcast for the week because I'm going to be on vacation next week getting ready for my move.
I'm so excited.
And Dave and I are going to be talking together. So Dave, you're taking the lead this time because you've done a lot of work on this Sunday's gospel.
Right. Well, actually, I'm thrilled about this Sunday's gospel. And it's not always that way. I don't always say I'm thrilled about it, but yeah. And I'm also just thrilled to be sitting next to you.
Exactly. It's good as if we're in the same place.
It's like in the same place, right? Yeah. And when Alex and I talk normally, our conversation just overlaps naturally like this, but when we are on a bridge between, we have to wait until each other are done, anyway, so I'm just excited about this.
All right. So this, the Sunday that
You
we're
really
talking
want me
about.
you want me to jump in, don't
Yeah,
you?
well, the Sunday that we're talking about and the key question we're talking about really is going to be for the 17th of March, right? It's that fifth Sunday in Lent.
It is that fifth Sunday in Lent.
Right? So
Yes.
that's the Sunday before Palm Sunday, for those of you who are keeping track. And really, we've now come to that place in our journey with Jesus where he is beginning to see the end of his journey just before he engages the cross. And that is where you have found a particular line
Yes.
that has jumped out at you. So I want you to
Yes.
say that particular verse, which I'm going to pull up here, and then we'll come back to our core question.
You bet. And this comes from, I think that Jesus went to the temple every year, and that this particular time he was at the temple. And some of his disciples said, there are some Greeks that are here to see you.
Right.
And Jesus is like, now's the time, right? And that's kind of fun. He talks about how a seed goes in the ground and dies, and then it bears much fruit, talking about, we believe, his own body. And then we have this. Jesus says, those who love their life lose it. And those who hate, technically unlove, their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there will my servant be also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honor.
Right. So I would think that for me, the core question is, what does it mean to love one's life versus unlove one's life as it relates to our relationship of serving this loving and life-filling God?
Yes. Because I thought we were going to talk about what does it mean to serve Jesus.
Or we can also do that.
Let's do that.
Okay,
right.
that's the core question.
Because that's what I prepared for.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
So go ahead. I got the question wrong. So restate the question.
But I like your question. And for those that are preaching, maybe they can use that one.
Okay,
But
well, let's go with yours
that's
first.
very interesting. So if we can pull it back up, that would help. And again, they said there's some Greeks here. This is written in Greek, so not written in English. And that's why I had to throw in there first that those who unlove their life, it's love and unlove, will keep it for eternal. But who serves me must follow me. Serves is diakonos. Does that word sound familiar to you?
Yep, I was very happy to be a diacono.
Me too. How long were you a deacon?
6 months.
Do you know how long I was a deacon?
I'm guessing longer.
Aren't we all still deacons?
Well, okay, you caught me on that one. Yeah, I walked right into that one.
You did. I thought you were going to see the door. Anyway, but I was a deacon for a year. Okay. So I really got to live into that. I don't think, however, this particular word that John was using was talking about the diaconate as we know it.
Right.
Deacon means to serve. And so whoever diakonos means, whoever serves me must follow me. And that follow is that word that we talked about before, that there's two different types of following. There's one where Jesus is out in front of you and you're walking behind him. The other follow me is that when Alex and I went to lunch today from our conference, we went out through a door and you weren't exactly sure which way to go. And it was one of those follow me, but we walked side by side the way that we are right now.
Right.
And the follow me in this Greek tense is the one that is side by side, walking with, not following behind. The The other way there's one particular commenter who writes in Greek, was saying that when Jesus says, "Who serves me must follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also," that he talks about a torch. And Jesus, who had said before this that you are the light of the world, that the sense that you're carrying a torch and Jesus is the torch. It's that type of journey. It's not 20 feet out in front of you and you're still stumbling in the dark, that the torch is with you. And that light is, you can hear the sound of it, you can feel the heat coming off the light, and that those who serve me must follow me. That there's this disconnect. You want to jump in? I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, so I want to jump in because there's a bunch of images that you're throwing here. The idea of Jesus following alongside of us is so important,
right.
For two reasons. One, because we don't need to feel that Jesus is so far ahead of us that we can't catch up.
Right.
I mean, he has gone before us, but in this particular aspect of servanthood, he is alongside of us. The other thing is that we shouldn't get ahead of Jesus.
You should never walk in front of the torch.
You should never walk in front of the torch.
Right.
And so it brings a whole other image to me of being a light bringer, of being a light bringer to the world. Is that, what's the most important thing that you bring with you? It's the light that I bring with me that is Jesus.
Yep.
And so this idea, this wonderful concept of walking alongside Jesus, thinking of him as a companion, is so important. Not just during Lent, but also in our spiritual lives, that Jesus truly is our companion.
Amen. He is also our light, and we are the light to the world. If I can throw it, because you wanted me to throw a couple stories in, as you remember. So we're at Dayspring Camp, and a lot of my formation happened at camp, at various camps, but the main one was Camp Houston in Western Washington. And so there's a mountain range, Cascades, where the sun sets behind. And around here in Florida, we get these beautiful long sunsets, and it turns red, and you just watch it. It's great. In Washington, particularly in that mountain range, it's light and then dark. The sun sets, and it is like, you better have your flashlight with you, because it is. And so we were out doing some stuff. We had a couple flashlights, and then the sun went down. We lost track of time, and just immediately we were in darkness. Right. And so our counselor held the light and was walking. She was at a normal pace, and we were running out in front of them. And when you're out in front of a light, it creates shadows. You get thrown off to where you are. We were tripping and falling. It was much easier to walk with her. If you were behind her, you also couldn't see what was in your path. You had to literally walk next to her. And that's the image that I have of this particular passage.
So this passage, for me, when I think of light bringer and walking alongside, I think of the people in our churches who walk alongside people. And this is where it's very powerful when you're getting people ready for baptism and confirmation that they're sponsors. So right now, if you have people in your congregation who are getting ready to receive that sacramental rite, or sacrament in case of baptism, who have people walking alongside them, and not just a member of the clergy, but a parent, a godparent, a friend, that is so important, because the light of the world is also within them as well. For me, I've told this story before in a sermon where I never knew what darkness was until I went to the Dominican Republic and somebody turned all the lights out in a blackout.
Right.
And I thought to myself, now this is dark.
Right.
And I said to myself, what do we do now? And I'll never forget my grandmother, in Paz descanse, as we would say in Spanish, rest in peace. She would say, she reached out with this wonderful oil lamp that she trimmed. That's how old school she was.
Wow.
And she said, "Don't worry, I'm here and I bring the light." And we put the light in the middle of the table, and we all sat around the light.
Wow.
And, at 10 years old, 11 years old, I wasn't afraid anymore, because there was this light in there.
Right.
So I think,
But that's magical.
yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think the message I would encourage our preachers to be talking about in this age where we love our lives so much, and I'm actually going to be thinking about that for the sermon for the 10th, is we love our lives so much, we're attached to the way our life is right now, if things are going well.
Right.
And sometimes Jesus is saying, are you willing to let go of these wonderful things that are happening to you in light of, no pun intended, what are the things I'm offering to you? And Jesus is talking to a group of people, and to us today, who might have said to themselves, why am I going to go serve somebody and maybe lose my life and give up all my possessions and be a servant when I like my life right now. And I think that's going to be a key part of what it means to evangelize to people.
I think it is. And the question that we had today is, how do we serve Jesus? Well, the people that walk beside those who are sick and those who are lonely, despondent. Our conference right now is talking about the preciousness of community and how we need community. And that is, I think, serving Jesus is creating a community where people are welcome.
The importance of relationships.
And the importance of relationships.
And here's the thing that I'm always fascinated by is in congregations like mine, and in some cases maybe like yours, where there's an older population.
Yeah.
There can be this temptation to say, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm all used up.
Right.
Or my personal favorite, I'm retired.
Society's telling them that. It's not that they necessarily feel it themselves, it's that we have this whole, there's so much ageism going on right now within our political sphere, of talking about now we have two candidates, both of a particular age, and not every 80-year-old is created like every other 80-year-old, that there's differences there.
And the point I'm making is that what I love to see is when a person, no matter what the age, commits themselves to do something as a servant for Jesus. And that can be so many different things.
Yes.
One of my favorite stories was there was a young mom, and she had a baby with her. And you could tell she was tired. It was one of those things where you can tell she did not sleep the night before, but she came to church. And that meant so much that she did that. But there was a grandma in the church who said, "Would you like me to hold her?" And that grandma's eyes just lit up when the mom said yes, and she just said, "Just sit down, and I'm going to rock her for a while and be here." Right. And the kid was asleep because the grandma knew what she was doing.
Oh yes, yes.
And so it's like just the simple acts of love are what it means to be a servant of Jesus.
Amen.
So you don't have to go start a church in another country. You don't have to pledge a certain amount. You just have to be present and saying, "Lord, how do you want me to walk alongside of you?"
Right. Yes. I know a hospice nurse that they had somebody who had been there for, for a few months, and she was non-responsive, but she could really communicate well with her eyes, and she had the most beautiful hands, and that once in a while she would walk by this woman's room and realize that she needed to go in, and this woman would just take her hand, even though she can't communicate. She would look at her in the eyes, and the nurse that I know would suddenly feel God's warmth and God's love, and she would get the energy from her.
Right.
And so even in that condition where she's not getting up, she's not speaking, she's no longer eating traditionally the way that we eat, but she still had that light, that she was still serving Jesus by just saying, that woman needs her hand to be held, and she did.
Yeah.
So
and the other thing is, as we kind of come towards, right now we're passing the midpoint of Lent, and as we come to see that place in the distance of Palm Sunday, it can almost feel like it's too late.
Too late for what?
Well, it can almost feel like it's too late. I didn't really get started in Lent. I really didn't practice a discipline. Right. I didn't do those things.
Right.
And I would say it's not too late.
No.
If you commit yourself to say, I want to commit some acts of servanthood for Jesus, I want to bring the light to somebody, now is the time. There's a deep sense of urgency in Jesus' voice in the gospel today, talking about, a grain of wheat falls so that it dies, so that bears fruit, bears grain.
Yep.
Jesus has a sense of urgency, and I think all of us need to have a sense of urgency as we approach this time.
Yes. Now, Jesus also had a promise that built, so if you can bring the reading back up for me. I know it's around there somewhere. Okay, we'll go with the really small one here.
You mean the whole reading or just the passage? Just the passage?
I saw it on the side. There we are. Okay, thank you. Whoever serves me must follow me, walk beside me, light, all that. And where I am, which is another word for God, there will my servant be also. And then the last line, whoever diakonos me, the Father will honor.
Right.
Honor is a decent translation, but it doesn't get anywhere near I think what the Greek word means. The Greek word means to value. And that value is an aorist tense. So the Father will value, is valuing, and will value in the future. And interestingly enough, the serving tenses are ones that are happening now. They're not aorist. So when you serve, not have served, is, and will, but just when you are serving the Lord, God will honor or value you.
Raise you up, in a way.
Amount of inestimable value that God has in the past, now, and in the future. And so that not only when you serve Jesus, you are walking beside him, and that where Jesus is, you will be together. It's wonderful.
Yep.
But that the Father gives value, incredible value, for those who do. And so there is no Lenten timeline, as you were saying. It's not like, well, if you'd started on Ash Wednesday, the Father would value you now. No, it's now. So if you serve the Lord now, if you walk side by side with Jesus, God values.
Yeah. So I think a theme that I've noticed in several of our episodes during Lent is, building up the sense of urgency, starting now. We've talked about servanthood a few times.
Right.
What's one thing, and this kind of will be our last thing as we
Okay.
kind of get ready to have our time with the bishop as a group for our conference
The
here.
bishop's coming to our podcast?
No, the bishop is not coming to our podcast. We're going to the general meeting.
We should totally just start recording.
no.
Just walk in. Anyway, yeah.
What do you think would be something to leave people with as they begin to see towards that horizon that is the cross that's coming?
So kind of in a general liturgical sense, that fifth Sunday of Lent, and then next Sunday is Palm Sunday, that, and then Holy Week.
Yeah.
So what type of message or image do we want to pass along?
Yeah. What's something you want to leave them with?
Wow. That your value is more than you can imagine. That the manger, the cross, the empty tomb, the ascension, the paraclete, the coming of the Holy Spirit, that all of that shows the value that we have. And it's not value. I don't want to get caught up so much in deeds as in to forget about God's grace.
Correct.
That the value that we have, what Jesus has done, is doing, and will do, is because we are loved, and not because of things that we earned or do. But
I think
who we
those
are.
deeds put us in communion with God and give God a greater opportunity to value and love us.
Right.
I
think
think
the diakonos, that's clear about the serving.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what I would leave people with is absorb as much as you can of these liturgies as they occur. Find the symbolism, and if you have a question, use this podcast as permission to bug your priest about what something means in the liturgy. Why do we wash feet? Why do we strip the altar?
Why do we not wash feet?
Or why do we
In the
not
case
wash
of all
feet
angels.
in the case
Yes.
of all angels? Or,
Yep.
why do we use palms? All those things. So these are all opportunities as preachers, as priests, to catechize people, to share people, evangelize, and most of all, to demonstrate God's love.
Yes.
So
A part of the way that we serve God is by doing this podcast. It isn't easy, really, all the time. And Ethan, my son, was telling me that the podcast he's following, he's like, yeah, they're in season 2, and they record like 10 episodes, and then you have to wait. And I'm like, and he's like, so how many episodes? And we're like, 52 every season?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, at 50, that's a lot. And I said, we're pastors. Yes.
there's a lot of work.
Right. But this is the way that we're showing our love to God, our love to you, and to show your value is that we sit down and do this. Besides the fact that we value each other and we have this awesome friendship.
Exactly.
And that's also fun to share.
Exactly. So Dave, I want to thank you for joining me today during this
Alex,
busy
I want to
conference.
thank you for joining me during this busy conference.
All right. And we want to let everybody know that we treasure them.
Yes.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This was kind of a fun time to be face-to-face. And you'll catch us in separate screens next time once again, but you will catch us, and we will catch you in the next one.
God bless.